One quiet morning, Ramat sat on a wooden chair on his front porch, holding a warm cup of coffee in his hands. The air was cool, and the sunlight had just begun to appear between the trees across the street. Like many mornings, he took a few moments to think about the small things he wanted to do that day. Water the plants in the yard, stop by the small grocery store nearby, and perhaps call his son who lived in another city. But that morning, something small happened that made him pause. He tried to remember the name of a neighbor he had spoken with the evening before. He could clearly see the man's face in his mind. He remembered the house at the end of the street where the neighbor lived. He even remembered their conversation about the weather and the plants growing in their gardens. Yet the name simply refused to appear. Ramat frowned slightly and tried to concentrate harder. A few seconds passed before the name finally came back to him. He smiled a little, relieved that he had remembered. But the moment left him with a quiet question in his mind. "Is this how it starts?" he murmured softly. "Is this what people mean when they say someone is becoming forgetful?" Questions like this appear in the minds of many people as they grow older. When someone forgets where they placed their glasses, walks into a room and suddenly forgets why they came there, or struggles to remember a familiar name, it can create a small wave of worry. But the truth is that the human brain does not simply stop working because a person grows older. The brain is an incredibly adaptable organ. Even in later years, it has the ability to learn, to create new connections, and to remain active in ways that often surprise us. What often changes is not the brain's potential, but how frequently we challenge it and how we care for it in our daily lives. Ramat began to understand this better after he met his old friend Surya again. They had known each other since they were young men, but life had taken them in different directions. Work, family responsibilities, and the passing of time meant they rarely had the chance to meet. When they finally reconnected, Ramat noticed something remarkable about his friend. Surya was 75 years old, 5 years older than Ramat. Yet during their conversations, Surya's memory seemed astonishingly clear. He could recall events from decades earlier with impressive detail. He remembered names, places, and even small conversations that had happened many years ago. One afternoon, Ramat finally asked him, "Surya, how do you keep your memory so sharp?" Surya smiled calmly before answering, "I never stop using my brain." The answer sounded simple, but the meaning behind it was profound. Surya explained that after he retired, he made a quiet promise to himself. He would never allow his mind to become idle. Every day he read something, even if it was just a few pages of a book or an article in the newspaper. He wrote small notes about memories from his life. Sometimes he even tried to learn new skills that felt unfamiliar at first. At 75 years old, he had begun learning a few words of a foreign language using an application on his phone. Many people might consider that unnecessary for someone his age, but for Surya, every small challenge was a way to exercise his mind. He often told Ramat, "The brain is like a muscle. If you stop using it, it slowly becomes weaker. But if you keep training it, it can stay strong much longer than people expect." The comparison made perfect sense. When people stop moving their bodies, their muscles gradually lose strength. But if they continue walking, stretching, and staying physically active, their bodies can remain surprisingly capable even in old age. The brain works in a similar way. A brain that continues to think, learn, and solve problems stays more active. Each time we learn something new or engage in meaningful conversation, the brain creates new connections between its cells. Yet there are habits that slowly weaken this process without us realizing it. One of the most common is a lack of mental stimulation. When people stop reading, stop learning new things, and spend long periods doing activities that require very little thought, the brain receives fewer challenges. Over time, it becomes less active. Another important factor is loneliness. Human conversation is one of the most powerful forms of brain exercise. When we speak with others, listen carefully, laugh, and exchange ideas, multiple parts of the brain work together. When social interaction disappears,
the brain loses some of those natural opportunities to stay engaged. Lestari experienced this in her own life. After her husband passed away and her children moved to different cities, the house that once felt lively became very quiet. Her days were often spent watching television or doing small chores around the house. At first, she enjoyed the peace. After many years of busy life, the calm felt comforting. But over time, she noticed something changing. She began forgetting small things more often. She felt less motivated and less mentally sharp. One day, a neighbor invited her to join a small reading group that met once a week in the neighborhood. At first, Lestari hesitated. She felt she might be too old to start something new. But eventually, she decided to attend one meeting just to see what it was like. The group was comprised of only a few older adults who gathered every week to read short stories and talk about them. After several months, something unexpected happened. Lestari noticed that her mind felt more active again. She began remembering details more easily. Conversations stimulated her thoughts in ways she had not experienced for a long time. And perhaps most importantly, she no longer felt alone. Mental activity is not the only factor that keeps the brain healthy. Physical movement also plays a powerful role. When we walk, stretch, or engage in light physical activity, blood circulation increases throughout the body, including the brain. This blood carries oxygen and nutrients that help brain cells remain healthy. Ramat discovered this after his doctor suggested that he take a short walk every morning in the nearby park. At first, he felt reluctant. After all, sitting comfortably on the porch felt easier. But after a few weeks of walking regularly, he noticed something surprising. His thoughts felt clearer. He was able to concentrate more easily. Even his sleep improved. Simple movement, something as basic as walking, had begun improving the way his mind felt. Food also plays an important role in brain health. Meals rich in vegetables, fruits, fish, and nuts provide nutrients that support brain function. Omega-3 fatty acids found in fish are especially helpful for maintaining cognitive health. On the other hand, excessive processed foods and sugar may gradually harm long-term brain function. Surya often reminded Ramat that the brain needs proper nourishment just like the rest of the body. Another factor that many people overlook is sleep. Sleep is not simply a time when the brain shuts down. In reality, the brain performs important work during sleep. It processes information, strengthens memories, and clears waste products that accumulate during the day. When people consistently lack sleep, their memory and concentration can weaken. After learning this, Ramat began taking his sleep habits more seriously. He started going to bed earlier and reduced the time he spent watching television late at night. But perhaps the most powerful habit for protecting the brain is curiosity. People who remain curious about the world often maintain more active minds. They ask questions, explore ideas, and continue learning even when they are older. Once, Surya shared a simple thought that stayed with Ramat for a long time. As long as we remain curious about the world, our brain will keep working. Those words changed the way Ramat looked at his daily life. He began reading again, something he had not done regularly for years. He explored new interests and allowed himself to learn without worrying about his age. Slowly, he realized something important. Growing older does not automatically mean becoming forgetful. Many people remain mentally sharp even into their 80s and 90s. The secret is rarely a single dramatic change. It is usually a collection of small daily habits. Keep learning. Keep moving. Keep talking with others. Keep nourishing your body and mind. And above all, keep your curiosity alive. Because as long as the brain continues to be used, it continues trying to work for us. And as long as we remain open to the world around us, age does not have to be the limit of how clearly we can think.